Part 3. The last place she was seen. By the time investigators reached this point in the case, they were no longer asking if something had gone wrong. They were asking where. Because once the timeline collapsed, only one fact remained solid. She had been seen alive in one place, and only one place, after which there was nothing. No movement, no messages, no trace. That location became the center of the investigation. The house where she was last captured on camera. At first glance, it appeared ordinary. A quiet residential home. No broken doors. No visible signs of struggle. Nothing that suggested a crime had taken place. But investigators know something the public often forgets. Crimes don't always announce themselves. An absence can be just as telling as damage. Detectives obtained a warrant and began a methodical search of the property. Not a rush sweep, but a forensic examination. Every room, every surface, every place where time might have left a mark. They weren't just looking for obvious evidence. They were looking for what shouldn't have been there. Specialized forensic teams were brought in. Trained dogs were deployed, not to search for people, but for traces, scents, residue, evidence that something irreversible may have occurred. What investigators found has never been fully released to the public, but their actions spoke clearly. Sections of the home were removed for testing. Materials were bagged. Items that appeared normal were treated as critical. That alone told investigators, and later the family, that the search had shifted. They were no longer operating under the assumption that this was simply a missing person, because missing people usually leave trails. And this trail had stopped abruptly inside that house. As the search expanded, attention turned to what left the property. Vehicles, routes, timing. Investigators began mapping how something or someone could be moved without drawing attention, which roads were quiet, which hours offered cover, which directions led away from cameras. At the same time, detectives were examining the behavior of the man who reported her missing, not emotionally, but structurally. They reviewed his statements, compared timelines, noted what he volunteered and what he didn't. They noticed something subtle. His version of events changed depending on who he was speaking to. To police, one story, to others, another. Not dramatic shifts, but small ones. The kind that don't stand out until they're placed side by side. And then there was the detail that investigators could not ignore. A history. One that didn't begin with this case. Records showed patterns of control, escalation, behavior that followed a familiar trajectory. One investigators had seen before in cases that ended badly. This wasn't presented as proof, but it was context, and context matters. While law enforcement worked quietly, the search expanded outward. Woods, rivers, remote areas, places where evidence could be concealed rather than discovered. Hundreds of acres were covered. Still nothing. No belongings, no remains, no answers. And yet investigators did not step back. They leaned in. Because when a person disappears without a trace,
Let's take a closer look.
it doesn't always mean the evidence is gone. Sometimes it means it was moved. And sometimes the most important clue isn't what was found. It's who disappeared next. In the months that followed, as legal pressure mounted and court dates approached, something happened that shifted the case yet again. The man at the center of the investigation stopped showing up, stopped responding, stopped being where he was expected to be. And in that moment, the search widened one final time. Now authorities weren't looking for one missing person, they were looking for two. In Part 4, the investigation reaches a breaking point, when silence turns into flight, and absence becomes a statement of its own. End of part 3. Call to action. If you're following this case, subscribe to The Quiet Evidence, because what happened next wasn't discovered in a search area. It was revealed by someone who vanished when questions became unavoidable.